All right, everyone, hello. Welcome to your restorative practice. You might notice today, if you're looking at the screen, that I have a blanket, well, multiple blankets actually, laid out over the top of my mat, and I'd suggest doing the same. And we're gonna keep it very simple today in terms of our practice and do a minimal amount of prop usage and a minimal amount of like shape shifting. And so to maximize the relaxation response. And so you'll want to have a pillow or a few pillows close by and some blankets. And we'll start out laying down on our backs. So feel free to grab your props before you head there. You can flank your, if you're using mats, you can flank your, not mats, if you're using pillows, you can flank your mat with your pillows on either side of like about where your knees might rest. You can always pad the back of your head with an extra blanket and just get as comfy as possible. The target area, the physical body that will focus today will be mainly like the waist, lengthening the waist, and this will translate for a lot of us into sensation in the low back. So just know that that's normal if it happens for you. It's also fine if it doesn't happen for you. So as you stretch out, lengthen out on your back, just take a few moments as usual to check in with the body. Notice where you typically hold tension in your body. For me, that's neck and shoulders. So I like to pull my shoulders down my back a little bit, lengthen out through the back of the neck. Imagine relaxing the throat and softening the jaw. Closing the eyes if that feels comfortable. And starting to just breathe a little bit deeper, breathe a little bit slower. You might notice where the breath naturally goes in the body. For some of us, it's the chest. For some of us, it's the rib cage. And for some of us, that's the belly. And take a few more breaths here, just in this really neutral, easy shape. Checking in with the body. The first little bit of work that we'll do will be to bend the knees and plant the feet. And then again, you're flanking your mat maybe with some pillows. So I have 2 pillows on either side of about like hip and knee height. I'm just going to let my knees fall off to the left and rest. The outer edge of the knee can rest on that pillow. And then if there's a lot of space in between the knees, like if your right knee is kind of like floating around in space, you might grab a second pillow and slide it in between the knees. And then if you want, you can take a blanket and lay it over the top of that outer right thigh. This creates a couple of scenarios. One being that little bit of extra weight can be really nice and soothing for the nervous system. And number 2, if you're a little bit cold, you just add some warmth to the body. So invoking the relaxation response. Anything you want to do with your arms, as long as it feels like you can relax, start to let the tension melt away. If you hold that in fingertips, wrists, in the forearms, the elbows, even in the shoulders, just notice where you can relax a little bit more. We'll take about 3 to 4 minutes in this first shape. If it's hard for you to be in stillness and in silence, that's a pretty normal response to slowing down, especially in the middle of the day when the mind is wanting to be active in work mode. So just noting that tendency to fidget or the tendency for the mind to kind of spin and thought process it's normal. So maybe looking at yourself with a little bit more compassion, if that's happening for you, offering a little bit of gentleness. And then maybe just saying, it's okay to rest right now. Because that's what you're here to do. It's okay to rest right now. Everything else can wait. You can let your breath be your anchor. And you might, again, notice where the breath naturally fills up the body. Maybe it's the chest, maybe it's the rib cage, maybe it's the belly. Let's take about 2 more breaths here. And then we'll start to rotate the knees back through center and take a full breath before you hurry off to the second side. You take a full breath with the knees pointing up towards the ceiling. You can lengthen out through the legs if you want. Just let yourself settle in a neutral position for a full breath cycle. And then if you're moving your pillow off to your right-hand side, it's positioned towards the lower outer right hip and knee, so that when you just let your knees fall off to the right, it has something soft to land on. Even if you don't think you need it, right? Like, because maybe you have the mobility in your body to come into a supine twist without support. But for today, just humoring me and giving yourself a little bit more support, a little bit more softness to lean into. Just notice the difference and how that feels. Notice how you've placed your arms, your hands. Noticing if you have that natural tendency to fidget, which is very normal. If you have that natural tendency to thought process. And the first step is just acknowledging that, okay, I'm thinking, I'm in my thinking brain. Okay, I'm noticing that, kind of following this narrative, this storyline in my head is really active. And then is there any space in there where you can just say, maybe I don't need to do that right now. Maybe that can wait for later. And anchor back into the breath and notice the qualities of the breath. And you can do that process over and over again, as many times as it takes. It's really not a one and done. Oh, I've noticed my thought process. Okay, I'm going back to the breath, and then you're done with that. It's really a practice and a habit that you can develop, and that might take a lifetime, and that is okay. The more you practice it, though, my hunch is it will become easier to identify when that narrative is spinning you out. And when the narrative has taken over the body's ability to rest. And when the narrative is causing tension in the body, the success in that is noticing it, returning to the breath. It's not the cessation of the thoughts, but rather than the acknowledgement, the return to the breath. And take about 2 to 3 more breaths here. When that side feels complete, you can slowly start to unwind, coming back through center. Again, finding something that feels neutral, whether it means keeping the knees bent and just pointing them back up towards the ceiling, or stretching straight out through the legs. Take one full breath cycle. And then we'll build our next shape, and our next shape will be kind of like a crescent moon shape on your back, or banana pose. If you're familiar with those terms. And all we really need to do is, again, we're just staying on our back for the majority of our practice, stretching out through the legs if your knees are still bent, and then just walking your heels off to your left until you start to feel a little bit of sensation along the outer right side of your waist. And then again, might feel it in the low back, completely normal. Same thing with the shoulders and the arms. You kind of wiggle your shoulders in the same direction as the heels, as the feet, off to your left. So you're creating this arch, this stretch sensation along the right side of the body. couple options with the arms. You can reach them overhead. You can keep a bend in the elbows. You can gently hold your opposite wrists or forearms. You can extend through the arms too if you like, although that tends to be hard on the shoulders if you've got anything happening in the anterior shoulder joint. So feel free to keep the elbows bent. Be gentle with your body. You can also add, if the arms feel like they can't get to the floor above your head, you can add props. You can add a pillow underneath your forearms and the backs of your hands. And then one final option here as we settle in, crossing the left ankle on top of the right ankle. In my body, that feels more stable for my pelvis. Or crossing the right ankle on top of the left ankle for most people. I don't even know if I'd say most, but for many people, that might cause more sensation through the outer right leg, and maybe even along the waist and the low back. You could try both crossings and see which one works best for you. You also don't have to cross the ankles at all. So just be willing to experiment with what works best in your body. Eventually, you'll settle into that place of rest. And then coming back to the practice of noticing the thoughts as they arise, which they inevitably do and will, and gently guiding yourself back to your breath as many times as that takes. In terms of timing for this, we'll be here for about another 2.5 minutes. Take 2 more breaths here. If you're able to, you can always back out sooner also. Just honoring your body's edges, its limitations. And then when you're ready to unwind, you can slowly wiggle the shoulders back. You can uncross the ankles if you had them crossed, wiggle the feet back. If that one was a lot on your low back, you can feel free to bend the knees as you adjust the feet back through center, and maybe even sway the knees side to side. And again, let's try to pause in between sides. Try to allow yourself to return to that neutral position before you head off to the second side. Take at least a full breath cycle there and center. And then you can start to build the second side. So if the knees are bent, re-extend through the legs. You can walk the heels off towards your right, keeping the pelvis grounded. And it doesn't really take much, usually, for us to feel some sensation along the outer left waist and maybe even low back. And then we can add the arms. We can wiggle the shoulders over towards the right. Arms can reach overhead, and you can provide support underneath the backs of the hands or forearms. You can always keep those elbows bent. You can try extending through the arms and check out how that feels on the shoulders if you want. And then again on this side, so you can play with the crossing of the ankle. For me, right ankle on top of left ankle here feels more stable through my pelvis. If I want to play with increasing the sensation along the outer left hip, side of the waist, and maybe even that side of the low back, left ankle on top of right usually does that for me. Remembering all of that's optional. Finding what's going to work for you to sustain this. Total amount of time in this shape is about 3 minutes, a little bit more than 3 minutes, which can feel like a long time if you're holding something without the support that your body needs. So checking in with your breath is a key indicator. The qualities of depth of the breath, where does the breath move in the body, in the throat, in the chest? Pretty shallow. Can you get it moving into the rib cage, into the belly? Relatively deep. Usually that's an indicator. The deeper the breath, the more relaxed, the longer we can sustain. Take 2 more breaths if you're able to in your current shape. And if you're still in that crescent moon shape, start to unpack slowly. Take it super slow. You can start to wiggle your shoulders back into place. You can relax your arms. You can uncross the ankles if they're crossed. Wiggle the feet back. And then just checking in with the low back in particular and the whole spine, really. What does it need? Do you want to bend your knees and sway the knees side to side? Does it feel good to just hold still and lie on your back for a few breaths? And then making a decision or starting to think about how you want to spend Shavasana. We have 3 minutes for Shavasana today. And so that might look like taking legs at the wall. It might mean just keeping it super simple with me, stretching the legs back out. You could come to an upright seat and begin your seated meditation even. Once you make that decision for yourself and settle into your shape, relaxing the shoulders away from the ears and slightly lengthening out through the back of the neck. I like to do that by slightly tilting my chin towards my chest. Let's take a collective breath together, inhaling through the nose. And open your mouth, exhale. Just letting the jaw relax, let the back teeth part, the tongue widen at the base of the mouth. You can let the tip of the tongue rest at the bottom row of teeth. Settling back into a breath that is just relaxed. There's nothing that you need to do to control it. Just let it be natural for you. If you feel comfortable closing the eyes in your Shavasana, letting the eyes sink heavy into their sockets, relaxing all the muscles of the face. Let it go, let it rest. If you'd like to stay longer in Shavasana, please feel free to do so. If you're ready to move on with your day, start to awaken the body slowly. In your own time, you can, if you're coming from your back, you can roll off to a side through fetal position, press up to a seated position. Feel free to support the body if you're coming with me for a final seat. Something that allows your spine to grow tall. Just take a few moments in silence, seated upright, and just kind of scan the body. Notice how you're feeling right now. And if you like, you can join me in closing our practice together by placing the hands over the heart, bowing the chin into the chest, acknowledging this is my body, this is my breath. And may we remember to use the fruits of this practice to serve our highest good. May we share it with those around us that we love and who could use healing. May we remember to send love and healing to all sentient beings around the world. May they be happy, may they be free. Namaste. All right, everyone, thanks for joining me today. Hope you enjoyed your practice. Hope you're feeling rested and rejuvenated. And I hope you come back again soon. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves.